Howdy! Welcome to Aspire Mountain Academy. I'm Professor Curtis, your instructor for this course in introductory statistics. In less than 10 minutes, this video explores the concept of a significance level in hypothesis testing and shows how to calculate test statistics in both the old school way and with StatCrunch. Let's get started. So first, let's talk about significance level. We've talked about significance level before when we were talking about confidence intervals, and that same concept of significance level is going to be here with us when we're talking about hypothesis testing. So once we have our null and alternative hypotheses, we need to select our significance level. Now the significance level is going to be the probability that a test statistic is going to fall inside the critical region, which we also call the region of rejection. Okay? In essence, it's the probability of making a type 1 error, which is rejecting the null hypothesis when the null hypothesis is actually true. If the null hypothesis is true, we don't want to reject it. So when we do make that error, it's called a type 1 error, and the probability of making that type 1 error is our significance level, which we represent with the lowercase Greek letter alpha. And it's going to be the same alpha that we saw earlier when we're dealing with confidence intervals back in chapter 7. So typically the seriousness of a type 1 error is what influences the selection of your significance level. If the consequences are super serious, then you want a significance level that's very low, because you want to minimize that probability of incurring those very serious consequences. If the consequences are not as serious, then your alpha is going to be a little bit larger. So typically what you see out in industry is, across the board, no matter what field you're in, by and large the most commonly chosen significance level is 5%. But occasionally you see other significance levels that are chosen as well. Again, the more severe the consequences for having a type 1 error, the smaller you're going to have alpha. Okay? But the most common choice is 1%, 5%, and 10%, with 5% by far and away being the most common choice. Then we have test statistics. So in hypothesis testing, we typically want to identify and calculate a test statistic. The formula for the test statistic depends upon what it is you're running a hypothesis test against. So you've got a test statistic for the proportion, which you can see here in the table is a z-score. And then you've got two different test statistics for the mean, depending upon the answer to that key question. Do you know what the population standard deviation is? If you do know what it is, then you're going to calculate a z-score. If you don't know what it is, which is far more common, then you're going to calculate a t-score. And then, of course, you've got the standard deviation or the variance, for which we use the chi-square distribution. So different ways to calculate the test statistic depending upon what it is that we're dealing with, but the basic concept is the same with the test statistic. This is going to be a value that we use in our hypothesis test. Let's look back at the example that we saw in the previous mini lecture about this XSort method of gender selection that's claimed to increase the likelihood of having a baby girl. So from the chart that we saw just a moment ago, our test statistic is going to be the one for proportion, because we're looking at the proportion of girls amongst the 100 births. So here's our test statistic. And then let's look at each of the values here. So p hat, of course, is the sample proportion. That's going to be 58 over 100. 58 births out of 100 births total. And then lowercase letter p is the probability of success. So, all things being equal, you're going to be equally likely to have a boy or a girl, so we're going to call that 50%. Then we're going to say that q is going to be the probability of failure. This is just the complement of p, so that's also going to be 50%. So then here's our test statistic equation. We substitute these values into the equation, punch it out in our calculator, and out comes 1.6. This then is our test statistic. We can also find test statistics in StatCrunch. So If you want to go old school and take the scenic mathematical route, then more power to you. But I want to join the 21st century and use StatCrunch. So in StatCrunch, you've got the same menu options that you used for the confidence intervals. Those same menu options, we're going to be using them for hypothesis testing. So you're just going to go through the same menu options, but when you get to that options window, okay, you're going to leave the default radio button selection here on hypothesis testing. You're not going to switch it over to confidence interval. So you just leave this alone, and then you'll fill in your values here to make your null and alternative hypothesis, and then come down and click compute, and then out comes your results window, which has your test statistic. The test statistic will always be the next to last value there in your results table. Let's look at an example problem to illustrate what we've just learned. So here we have a claim that the mean income for entry-level engineers is more than $35,500. A recent survey of 240 entry-level engineers showed a mean value of $37,475, and the sample standard deviation is 2,384. What is the value of the test statistic? Well, first we're going to get our null and alternative hypothesis. So here we have the null hypothesis where we make a statement of equality. That's what the null hypothesis is by definition. The alternative hypothesis is just going to be our claim, because our claim has no semblance of equality to it. So we can just take that claim and make it our alternative hypothesis. Next, we're going to use StatCrunch. So we'll go to Stat, T-Stats, one sample with summary. We're going to use T-Stats because we don't know what the population standard deviation is. We know what the sample standard deviation is, but not the population standard deviation. So we want T-Stats. Then we're going to use one sample because we've got just the one sample. And we don't have any actual data, so we have to select with summary. So in the options window that appears, notice we put in our sample statistics. Notice this is not the claimed value. This is from the sample itself. So here's where the survey information comes in handy. So we put that information here for our sample, and then we make sure that these fields represent the null and alternative hypothesis that we constructed earlier. Then once we have that information in, we'll go ahead and press compute, and then out comes our results window. And look, lo and behold, that test statistic is going to be right here, always the next to last value in the table in your results window. And that brings us to the end of this mini lecture. I hope you found it helpful. You can find more mini lectures for this and other courses at AspireMountainAcademy.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.